Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Radha Madhava Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe, Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita, Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jagannath, Jagannath, Baladeva, Jai Subhadra, Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Jagannath, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnupada Prabhams, Prabhupada, Shatra Shakti Shishimati, Antinandi Goswami, Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Oh glorious to the same devotees. Oh glorious to the same devotees. Oh glorious to the same devotees. Oh glorious to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Prabhupada. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mahani ki jai. Shri Shri Gauranga ki jai. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. So, language, English, Deutsch? English. So, what's the language? Who doesn't understand German? Wer versteht kein Deutsch?
Ein bisschen durch.
So, everyone speaks English. Class should be in English in that case. Is class in English usually? In the morning? Yes?
Meistens.
Meistens. Good. Then we're reading from Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 28, Text 24. And the chapter is called Puranjana Becomes a Woman in the Next Life. Purim Vihayo Pagata. Purim Vihayo Pagata. Uparudho Bhujangamaha. Uparudho Bhujangamaha. Yadatam evanupuri. Yadatam evanupuri. Vishirna prakritim gata. Vishirna prakritim gata. Purim vihayo pagata. Uparudho bhujangamaha. Yadatam evanupuri. Vishirna prakritim gata. Purim vihayo pagata. Uparudho bhujangamaha. Yadatam evanupuri. Vishirna prakritim gata.
Vishirna prakritim gata.
Please chant.
Purim vihaya pagata.
Purim vihaya pagata.
Uparudho bhujangamaha.
Uparudho bhujangamaha.
Yadatam evanupuri.
Yadatam evanupuri.
Vishirna prakritim gata.
Vishirna prakritim gata.
Kom auf diese Seite.
Purim vihaya pagata.
Purim vihaya pagata.
Uparudho bhujangamaha.
Uparudho bhujangamaha.
Yadatam evanupuri.
Yadatam evanupuri.
Vishirna prakritim gata.
Vishirna prakritim gata. Purim, the city.
The city.
Vihaya,
Vihaya,
having given up.
having given up.
Upagataha,
Upagataha,
gone out. Uparudaha,
Uparudaha,
arrested.
arrested.
Bhujangama,
Bhujangamaha,
the serpent.
the serpent.
Yada,
Yada,
when.
when.
Tam,
Tam,
him.
him.
Eva,
Eva,
certainly.
certainly.
Anu,
Anu,
after.
after.
Puri,
Puri,
the city.
the city.
Vishirna,
Vishirna,
scattered.
scattered.
Prakritim,
Prakritim,
matter.
mattered.
Gata,
Gata,
turned into.
turned into.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavanaraj and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Purport. When the living entity is arrested, all his followers, namely the life air, the senses, and sense objects, immediately leave the lump of matter, the body. When the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works but turns into basic material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. When a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of that city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. Then we say, "Thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return." We refer to the body. When a city is attacked and bombarded by enemies, the citizens generally leave and the city ceases to exist. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the condition of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, a living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body, not knowing that the spirit soul is the principal factor within the body. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, the spirit soul is saved from eternal transmigration. The Bhagavatam considers those who are attached to their bodies to be like cows and asses. Jaya Gopal Dasa. The cow is a very innocent animal, and the ass is a beast of burden. One who labors under the bodily conception simply works like an ass and does not know his self-interest. It is therefore said, Yasyatma buddhi kunapidridatuke sadhi kaladrishu bhauma jiya divi yatirta buddhi salena karhichit shanesh abhigeshu saeva gokara. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Human civilization devoid of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain or heart of a dead man. Purim vihayo bhagata uparudho bhujangamaham yadatam eva nupuri vishirna prakritim gata. The serpent, who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yavanaraj and was out of the city, began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaravayam Dadati Safarantikam Nityananda Namastubam Premananda Pradayane Kalokamashanasham Janavapate Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namo Murti He Krishna Karuna Sindhari Namandapati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusutade pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpataruvischa Prapasindubevacha Patitanam Bhavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're here in the, not quite the middle, towards the end of this very interesting and very deep story of Puranjana. How it's Narada Muni speaking to Maharaj Prachinabanishat, who is... Oh, it's not on? Okay. No, this the kitchen would need it, huh? Also. Now wait a moment. Yes, Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. So yes, we're in the more middle towards end of this very, very interesting and very deep in knowledge, spiritual knowledge, the story which Narada Muni is speaking to Maharaj Prachinabarishat, who is kind of a Karmakandya follower, who's performing the Vedic rituals, who is said to be attached to his throne, family, wife, his kinsman, his land, and out of pity and mercy, Narada Muni goes to Maharaj Prachinabari and speaks to him this very symbolic and metaphorical story of Maharaj Puranjana. And he chooses to speak this story not to directly address Maharaj Prachinabarishat, but to, in an indirect way, make him aware of his situation by telling him a story. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. Someone speaks to another person some truth and actually it touches you. Or something is recalled and you suddenly identify, oh, actually, this really, really fits to me. And as we see later, Maharaj Prachinabarishat still didn't quite understood this whole symbolic story and asked Narada Muni what this means. But he was already awakened, he was inquisitive. Okay, this has some meaning, what does this mean? And then it's very interesting in further chapters to come, where talks between Narada and Prachinabari, it's again very, very deep spiritual knowledge given to Maharaj Prachinabarishat. So you have a lot of very much nectar to come in the Bhagavatam classes. So here we are, the body, the city of Puranjana is becoming smashed to dust, as it said in the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada says, "Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return." That's like a saying in Old English about the body. He says, we refer to the body. This body here, where we're all sitting, once it will become dust. Before it's dust, it will start stinking. If it just lies somewhere on the side of the street, then it's not very nice, but usually in a cultured society the body gets burnt and it becomes dust. I have at the moment in my garage, there's an urn with dust inside of my father-in-law, which is waiting to be transported to Vrindavan to be poured into the saintly Yamuna. So I haven't looked inside it. We will have to take out the ashes and put it in a urn which can be scanned, because the ceramic urns with the glazing on top often has lead inside and they cannot scan it, so that might be a problem. So we will have to open it and pour it over in a wooden urn or something like that. So there we have the dust. Just 1 year ago he was flesh and bones, living, laughing, smiling, joking, and now he's dust in an urn. So yes, this will all be our fate. We will all be smashed. Our serpent, with the 5 heads, and remember this is the 5 pranas in the body. refer to a serpent because it's prana, it's in channels, in the nadis, cold in the body, it flows, it gives the body energy. It's been taken out, it's been attacked by all the soldiers of Yamanaraj. They attack the serpent, and that's when we get old. Our life energy gets attacked by time, by old age, by disease which are coming, and more that prana is being kind of, the more we get sick and we get old, it's being more and more pulled out. And the prana went already out, and Maharaj Puranjana, he also had to go, and all the inhabitants had to follow all the elements of the body, or let's say all the, what are the inhabitants given? Well, all the parts of the body had to follow. And this is again a strong purport by Srila Prabhupada, try to wake us up. Foolish persons who engage simply in improving the condition of the city or the body without caring for the citizens or inhabitants, referring to the soul, they're just foolish people. So Eva Gokara, they're like cows and asses. He quotes this verse which Prabhupada likes to quote out of the 10th canto. And Prabhupada also gives this comparison to the cage and the bird. Someone who just polishes the cage and doesn't give food to the bird will die, nothing will happen. So the same way, Prabhupada makes a strong purport on how in the civilization where it's devoid of Krishna consciousness, where the soul, the actual person in the city of the body is not considered, is a civilization of lower animals. And we can really observe this when we are here in this modern civilization. It is a civilization where the body is totally in focus. It's we try to examine the brain and chemicals there and try to explain psyche, try to explain consciousness, and people are not aware of there's a spiritual soul who gives energy to the whole of this body. Like Prabhupada used to say, there is no faculty in the university for the soul, for the living entity. It's just all about the body. And a civilization who identifies with this body is like an animal civilization, as we hear, eating, mating, defending, sleeping. And it's a civilization, it's a polished animal civilization where the normal urges of this body are the same like those of the animal. It's just very much polished. We have a nice house, we don't live in a cave or in a tree trunk somewhere, we have heating system, we have nice clothes, we have nice makeup, we make a nice hairstyle, but ultimately it's all about eating, sleeping, mating and defending. It's like an animal society, and we just polish the cage, we just take care of the city without caring for the citizens, we take care of the body without taking care of the soul. And it's interesting, especially these days, it also reflects people are so much attached to objects, to things, the newest iPhone, the best watch, or the supercar. It's all about things, and this also reflects our mood. It's all about these externals, and less personal interaction, personal exchange, face-to-face exchange is given value to. Like there's one, I watched some years ago an interesting clip by a man. He said he called the video clip "The Innovation of Loneliness," and he refers to our social media where we are so much interacting over this screen with other people, with text messages, with voice messages, maybe at best a video call or something. I also find it ironic we make these voice messages and we like throw back and forth these voice messages, and I thought, oh, why don't we just meet if we have so much to tell to each other? Of course it's nice we can keep connections to devotees on the other side of the planet somewhere, But he referred to this that it really makes us lonely. It's really about, we are kind of enjoying some electronic device actually, but it's not really about the interaction of the people. And we can create some profile of one on some social platform, which is very deceiving. Again and again, people who are famous on Insta or whatever, once in a while they out themselves and they say, I'm in depression, I had a burnout, I have a crisis, and up to now it looked like they have the fabulous life, that one photo somewhere next to the Grand Canyon, and then they meet this and this person, and we think, wow, what a good life this person has. And some of them, they say, actually I'm in a burnout, I have so much stress, it took me so much stress making all these videos and creating this profile, and it's just all crashed, and I'm not this person you believe to be there. So yeah, caring for the city, caring for the body and not the inhabitants. I'd like to kind of go a bit also on the, let's say we call it meta plane. So Puranjana is the story to kind of awaken us, awaken our own attachment to our body, or awaken the awareness how we ourselves are attached to this body, how we ourselves believe we're in this body. And it's a whole instruction on how we are actually not this body. And the question is, how do we integrate this knowledge? Does everybody understand the word integrate? In other words, very practical, what does this mean for me? So, there's a human conditioning I see again and again, and also we devotees are not devoid of it, especially I see it happens strongly amongst devotees. We have this tendency for conceptualization. Like the faculty of our psyche is we want to create security, and in order to have security we need to control. That's a conditioned functioning of our psyche. So in order to control, to create this security, whatever comes to us, we conceptualize, or we make a draw in our brain. It happens very naturally. Or you see this person on the street, oh, is this kind of person. Like this morning, one guy approached me on the station, and I immediately thought, oh, it's a beggar again, he wants some money. And then it turned out he didn't know his way and he wanted to go somewhere. So immediately he drove back, came out. That's how quick our psyche works. And then when we perceive knowledge, information, we conceptualize it. Oh, this in this area, this in this area, this in this area. Like this we create control and security. We can understand things around us. So in the same way, when we read information, we have the risk is that we conceptualize also and think, I'm not the body, and make an intellectual conception of I'm not the body without going deeper of really thinking, okay, I understand that in my head, but did I really realize it? Do I really feel like I'm not the body? Do I when I cut my finger or someone hurts me with harsh words, did I then realize I'm not the body? Or when I get sick, how do I react then? Or in our everyday life, do I feel actually I'm eternal spiritual soul, I'm not this body? So and I say especially with devotees because we have a very strong philosophy, we have a very big structure of knowledge with our shastras, with Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the Goswami literature. We have a big body of knowledge, a very deep knowledge, and especially if you're a very intellectual person, the little danger which is there that you start conceptualizing, without digesting and going deeper with the knowledge, okay, first of all, what does it mean for me? And I use that word feeling, do I really feel it? Do I really feel, oh, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna? Do I really feel that I want to give pleasure to Krishna? Or is it just something in the mind, oh, I read it, it's about giving pleasure to Krishna, okay, let's go give pleasure to Krishna, but where is the backup? Where is the heart which is backing it up? So let's say the Vedic way to go deep, to go to realize knowledge is, you heard this many times before, is Shravanam, Manana and Nididhyasana. So Shravana, we hear the knowledge from Shastra, Guru, Sadhu Shastra, from the spiritual master, from the Sadhu, we study the scriptures. Manana, we remember, we think about this knowledge. Okay, I read today that Prabhupada says a society without putting Christian consciousness in the center, the soul in the center, is just like a society of dead people. So remembering this, oh, it's about the spiritual soul, it's about me as an eternal part of Krishna to serve him. So, and then for me, actually, the most prominent part of this way is Nididhyasana. And it comes from the root Nidyai, which literally means desire to understand. So it's an active thing. It's something where we put an endeavor in. I want to understand this knowledge. In other words, you could also say, okay, what does this mean for me? And sometimes it's said that the Vaishnava put a fourth part to this, call it epistemology, the system of how to get to knowledge, is prayer. I may suggest that in the mood of a Vaishnava, in Nididhyasana, the prayer is inside, because a Vaishnava knows I can't get any knowledge by my own strength. So what he will do, if he desires to understand, he will go and pray. And he will pray to Krishna, please reveal this knowledge. Then we have the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam avijanati yavanyaschasmi tattataha tatomam tattato gyata vishate tat anantaram. One can understand me as I am, understand, knowledge, realize, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. So that's the bhakti approach, the devotional approach. I know only by devotional service I will understand. I will realize this knowledge gets revealed to me. It's like, that's why we say this is revealed knowledge. It's transformational scriptures. These scriptures it's not just reading a text, getting information, it's about transforming us and transforming our heart to realize knowledge, transforming our heart from lust to love, where the mirror of the mind get cleansed, that we properly see we are spirit, soul, we are servants of Krishna. And then also in that sense of Nididhyasana, to try to understand, there's another important approach in bhakti, how to come to knowledge, which is tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. We should approach a spiritual master who has this knowledge, who's seen this knowledge. And we approach him with submission, we approach him with surrender, we approach because in a mood of service ultimately, in a mood of this person is higher than me, and if I serve him, if I please him, just by this momentum of giving a little smile on the spiritual master, so much mercy is coming, so much realization is coming of the scriptures. I have to say it again and again when I see Krishna Prem Rupa, when he went to Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu to approach him for Bhakti Shastri, he said, first do Bhakti, then Shastri will come. So he made that point like that. I always remember that again and again. Somehow this really stuck with me when he told this to me. The Bhakti will reveal the knowledge with it. Like Osa Indra Prabhu used to say, you can have so many zeros if you don't put a 1 in front, it's all useless, there's no value. He meant it, of course, especially in kirtan, that you do kirtan for the pleasure of Krishna, you have to put Krishna in front. So in the same way, whatever we do, when we hear knowledge, when we serve, we have to always put Krishna in front. We have to put this the aspect of bhakti, of doing it favorably for Krishna with the intent of pleasing Krishna, of pleasing the spiritual master and pleasing the Vaishnavas. And then this knowledge will be revealed to us. And that's all backed up nidhi-desan. We have a desire to understand. We want to understand. Because I call this conceptualization, when we just take knowledge and build an intellectual construct of it. And especially if you're intellectually a strong person, it can deceive you that I think, oh, I realized I'm not this body, but actually it's still an intellectual construct. So if we need to be introspective and differentiate it. Okay, I understood it in my head, but okay, what does this mean for me? And where do I feel I'm a spiritual soul? Or is it just in my mind? So this is an important awareness we need to create, and then desire to understand, okay, Krishna, please let me understand I'm a spiritual soul. Please let me understand I'm your eternal servant. Because ultimately, let's say, there's two sides of it. Our material conditioning, our material machinery of body and our psychophysical body, if we don't transform, it will win. Our emotional urges or emotional pushings or our desires will win if we don't make this realized knowledge. So it's also a very common understanding in psychology, that thing which you push aside, say some emotional or some desire, which is connected to emotions, if you push that aside, that will be the thing which will win over you, which will rule you. So in the other way, we have to go into this transformation, in this realization of the knowledge, that it becomes, let's say, feelingly driven, that we want to feel, oh, I want to serve Krishna, that we start feeling, oh, I'm a spirit soul. Because the intellectual concepts, they will at some point, they will break down, because the body will say, I'm not happy with this anymore. The emotions will say, I've had enough of just following something because I know it in my head. So what does it mean for me not to be the body? Is there a formula to realize? How do we realize we're not the body? Actually. Pain? That's a good one. Yeah. Pain is a very very important factor in going back to Krishna. I'll just come back to you. In that sense, I refer to that verse, Tatein kampam susamikshamano bunjana evakmakritam vipakam ritvakva pulvir vidanan namaste jivotaya mukti pade sadayapa. The one who tolerates his karma, which is pain and pleasure, and continues to worship Krishna with ritvakva, with words, with his body, with his mind, liberation, it will become his rightful heritage. And liberation is not just merging into Brahmajyoti. Liberation means coming into bhakti, as it's explained by our acharyas. And so this pain in the life, in a spiritual context, has a very important factor of chiseling away our desire to want to enjoy this world and to perform devotional service, and in other words, to detach from the body, to realize, oof, this body is just a big burden. You wanted to say something, Nikolai?
Yes, By dreaming.
By
Dreaming.
dreaming. So you have a dream that you're not this body, or
Of going out of the
out of the body. Okay. Mm-hmm.
The positive approach to, okay, we are not this body, and then to realize, and we here I am a soul, to act like a soul, and that's given by the spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
Gives us the process how we can revive the soul, and in this way we can make an experience of life, happy, how I can be happy, how I can be engaged, how I can have a relationship transcendental to the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. And what you're pointing out is a point of experience. Like, that's another fact of Nidhi-san. I try to understand. We want to experience something. We don't want to just practice a religious life where we are dutifully doing our sadhana and the rituals. We want to experience. I'll come back to it in a moment. I just want to stay with this point for a moment. This experience of the positive aspect that you experience the connection to Krishna, maybe also the ananda and bliss of devotional service, and especially in times where actually the body may not feel well, where the body is actually not for ananda and bliss but for the other thing, and still we experience, wow, there's something beyond this body which is not dependent on how the body feels, which gives us an experience that there's something there, something else there. I was always having like the maybe a bit sentimental idea. I practice Krishna consciousness, and one day it just makes, and then I see I'm a spirit soul, with light, and oh wow, like this, I realize now I'm a spirit soul. So I believe it's also a gradual process whereby practicing devotional service, it's transcendental knowledge is revealed. So it's step by step, little bits of realization. Okay, I really might not be this body. It feels like I'm someone else. I'm something different. And I think also that really the understanding that I have understood it in the head, and from understanding it here, just kind of intellectually and realizing it, to understand, okay, where am I here? Somewhere. And I think it's important to differentiate this, not to either be stuck in some conceptualization or in some sentimental understanding, spirit, soul, everything is good, like that. I call it in the yoga scene, I call it this pseudo-shanti. They're there like, like, and it's very superficial. So, can I ask Krishna Prerupa first? I will come to you. Yes.
Just on the point of striving for that personal realization or experience, I think it is a requirement to deeply desire to pray to have such experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in Burichan, probably his surrender unto me, he makes the point that, like that Paramdristva Nivartana, that higher taste, sometimes you think, the higher taste will come at some point. But actually it's not a luxury, but it's something that you need.
Mm.
And if you don't have it, we will fall down.
Mm.
So he makes a point, either you get the higher taste and really experience Krishna consciousness, or you will stop practicing at some point.
Mm.
Well, just what you said, so that you need to understand, I have to check myself, at the end of the week, so how much did I actually experience Krishna consciousness this week? How much did I actually have spiritual experiences?
Mm.
And if I didn't felt some bliss or something, then I have to, see what can I do differently.
And we're actually really dependent on these experiences.
Yeah. Otherwise, how can we go on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Prabhupada, this famous quote of him, he says this Govinda necessity, where he emphasizes, Krishna consciousness is not a luxury, it's really a necessity, and if we don't experience it, Krishna, then we will not stay alive in Krishna, or it will just end up in some dry religious practice, which will, mind you, on a side note, will also be very strange for today's people, because today's people, they don't want religion anymore, they don't want institutions, they want a real experience. So you wanted to say something?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the lecture. It was very inspiring for me. I thought also about what does it mean for me that I am not this body, I am soul. And once I thought that love means self-sacrifice, and I experienced this in service when you try to serve another people, devotees, and try to forget about your own interest or desires and just try to serve their pleasure, and you make like this, and then you feel that you are absolutely happy, you are in Ananda, and you don't need anything else, and you don't think about your anymore. You think about happy of this, of your guru, of devotees, and for me it means that I'm not this body, because I'm not thinking about me. I think about happy of Krishna and his devotee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Actually, when you're saying this, I just remember now one experience in my good old brahmacharya days. It was a very full day of service, and in the evening we had a concert in the Rietberg Museum. Like some cultural concert, we brought in a bit of mantras, but there was sitar there and like that. I played some mridanga. And I remember playing their mridanga and suddenly like, oh my God, I totally forgot to eat today. The whole day I didn't eat, and the whole day I didn't think about eating. And maybe some of you know me a bit more. My spiritual master once said to me, when you're hungry and tired, you're good for nothing. So there was a time where in every class, when I was traveling with Satchidananda Maharaj, I would be mentioned somewhere that I eat a lot and I like to eat. So for those who don't know me that well, it's just a quick explanation of how I function or used to function, especially when I was hungry, then better get out of my way. I want to eat. So on that day, I was like, I forgot to eat. This is amazing. I was really like, I couldn't believe it, because this is something which really wouldn't happen to me. Like in festivals, I would become like a really very nasty and not comfortable person when I had to wait too long in the queue for prasadam. And the worst would be if someone would come and ask, oh Prabhu, can you help serving? No, I don't want to serve, I'm hungry. So that was really always a challenge for me. So yes, that's a very, it's experience. It's experience that beyond this body there is pleasure, there is ananda, there is bliss, which if you would consider the body, no, maybe back pain or headache because you've been awake so long, but actually you're feeling a higher realization, higher reality. So the thing is also what I was thinking about reading this purport, how when it's a strong purport of Srila Prabhupada. And I asked the question in the beginning, how do we integrate this knowledge? And when we see this society is just a society of cows and asses, so do we go out when we meet people, oh, now another cow and ass is coming, let me give him Krishna consciousness? Or do we actually start having compassion for this person, that, oh, why can't this person have the same experience as I do? This morning when I sat in the train, I was like, nicely, I had a seat free next to me, it was not too many people, I can think, oh nice, I can chant a bit like that. And then the last moment, one guy comes, probably was some worker in some work clothes, and you're like, sit here, yeah, sure, you know. And then he had this sandwich next to him with meat inside, it was stinking horribly, and he was like, he had his headphones on, you know, he didn't hear how loud he was chewing, you know. It was like, you know, and then the smell of this sandwich, and I'm like, oh my God. does this have to be an eye? Or yeah, really, cow. Well, not even a cow. A cow is vegetarian, you know. Yeah, that's exactly the verse of today. This is, you know. And then I was thinking, yeah, but actually, if I would approach him now with that mood, no chance of reaching him. He would feel offended. Totally natural. Which adult person wants to be told what to do? But if you approach him with this understanding of compassion, which is an aspect of love, love is including, then the chances is to reach the people because the person will feel appreciated and valued. And that's also one strong realization I'm having more and more. Spiritual Christian consciousness means learning to deal and use this material body and conditioning we have of ourselves and of the interactions we have with others, because I honestly have to see my realization. The more I practice Christian consciousness, the more I see how strong and how present our material conditioning is there. We need to take in account in our own dealing with ourselves and in dealing with people to find this channel ultimately to the soul, and it goes past the gross and subtle body. And in this sense, yeah, the way we deal with ourselves, with our own conditioning, with our own city, with the serpent and the inhabitants inside, and we don't have a very too fast radical approach. It anyway will only become dust, I will just neglect it. And in the same way develop maybe a more dogmatic approach towards other people. He's just a fool and ass, and his body will anyway be once dust, so I don't need to consider his material conditioning and dealings. But they're very prominent and they're very strongly there. But that's again a class for itself. So we're approaching 9:30. Are there any comments or questions? Forgive me if it turned out to be a bit interactive, but I think it's nice to have also discussion. Okay.
Yeah, maybe just you mentioned the importance of developing compassion, and I do remember, like in the early days when I joined, I do remember some classes or speeches by some preacher that, now we go out to preach to cows, dogs, asses, camels. I do remember kind of that mentality. So, would you like to share maybe something? How can we, because to really feel compassion is not such an easy thing. It means you have this selfless attitude, you really concern about others. So what would you say, how to develop such compassion more and more?
I mean, there's kind of a spiritual and material level. The spiritual level is really comes with realization. It comes with our own development of love for Krishna. When we start loving Krishna, we start loving all living beings. We have this natural inclination of being. The Vaishnava qualities develop, and we have this natural quality of being kind and compassionate towards other people. So it develops. But I would, and that's say more the material plane is not proper because it's connected, but more that's on the plane where we are, while we're still working, dealing with our conditioned nature. It's a training to develop compassion, and compassion starts with putting aside our own agenda, putting aside our own thinking that and that would be good for this person, putting it aside and really being with the person. And that's, you can train. It trains it's a lot. It's reading body language. It's training to put yourself in the other person, of trying to understand where he is. Like in one prominent psychologist in the category of Freud and what's his name? Jung, Adler, he said the process of like the therapist with his patient is kind of can only start, or is even more than 50% already done, if the therapist can feel, oh, I would have acted the same way in your situation. Like it's therapying a child abuser, like really a bad thing. But if you can go in his position and say, okay, in your position I would have acted in the same way. That's an extreme example, you know. So if you can understand your opposite so much that you have that feeling, I would have acted in the same way, then that person you're immediately connected. He immediately feels confident and connected to you, and that means, going out of yourself and going into the person. So it's a training. We can train, and of course by our devotional practice, where we want to get connected with Krishna, we want to become like actually my spiritual master often says we put the iron in the fire and we start glowing with spiritual Shakti. In the same way, when the more we glow, it supports this compassion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. It was quite some time until I came again for a class. I had a quite intense first half of the year with a big rebuilding the house and like that. So I'm very grateful to you to give me this opportunity. Please tolerate me with my little frog-like croaking here. I really appreciate that I can do this little service. Hare Krishna.
We also appreciate Jaya Gopal. Please come more often.
Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jaya Gopal ki jai. Ja.
Ist nice, es unterstützt es hören.
Ja, und ich denke halt auch, weil es so wichtig täglich Fragen mit der Klasse und manchmal kann es auch so ein Automatismus werden.
So ist man
und wenn man schreibt, manchmal ist ja der Meinung so, der Sprecher oder der. Ja. Eigentlich gibt es immer etwas, wo jeder Klasse gibt es immer etwas, wo einen zum Nachdenken kann. Das ist für mich eine Inspiration. Ja, das auch.
Ein bisschen durchschütteln.
ja, ist nicht so. Der Regel. Das passt, das ist noch nicht so.
Ja, irgendwie.
Ich habe das Gefühl, wenn wir reden, mit der Flüchtling, Partner, schon merkt man, das ist nicht jemand, wo ich könnte nicht viel Tempo gehen und die Zeit, sondern das sind Flüchtlinge ankommen. Ich frage mich schon, wie lange das gut gehen kann. Willst du das verstehen?
Ja.
He's watching camera.
Ah, yeah. гирлянд нету, смотри же.
Мгм.
Да?
Мгм.
А я говорю, я гирлянду вам свяжу.
На Прабхупаду. Черногория.
Нет. Сейчас, нет, Паша, все это нет. Понюхай. А понюхай. Какие они молодцы, подушки возле.